Hello there, this is Rom Wills coming back at you with yet another video. Rom's Research Methods. Now, I've actually been saving this podcast for a long time. I've had notes for this probably since I started doing YouTube videos, right? Because, I've done some videos talking about how I learned the game and everything, and that's true. Like the game of man getting women, I didn't learn that in a formal setting. But when we really get into other aspects of relationships that I might talk about, or any subject that I might talk about, I actually have a formal background. See, one of the things I don't talk about a lot is my educational background. I just say I have some degrees, but I don't talk about it. The reason why I don't is just a personal thing with me, because a lot of times people will throw their degrees in their face or use it as a status symbol. Black women are famous for doing this, and some black men are doing it. It's like, oh, I got my degree and all that. And my feeling has always been it's about someone's character. That's why, despite my educational background, I can respect someone who's blue collar, and I have the utmost respect. I can talk with a garbage man and treat him with dignity, and then I can have a conversation with a CEO and treat him the exact same way. Because I didn't, and plus another thing, the stuff I do now, I didn't learn it in school. So it's, to me, I learned the methods of doing it in school, but like specifically what I do, it's just me. And plus, I want people to really focus on the information. Sometimes people get too caught up in everything else. Now, that being said, I wanted to share how I'm able to come to the conclusions I do come to. Now, the most relevant education I've had towards what I do now, like I said, I didn't formally learn game in school, and I didn't formally learn how to do podcasts and YouTube in school. The biggest thing was just standing in front of people making presentations, right? But I have a Bachelor of Arts in History from St. Joseph's University in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. The Hawk will never die. As an aside, I'm a big college basketball fan, and St. Joe's Hawks, I'm hoping they win the Atlantic 10. But that's going to be those times. Anybody who gets coaching from me, if there's a St. Joe's game about to come on, that's dead time. Don't even try to hook up anything, right? Anyway, being a liberal arts curriculum, you have to take several courses, at least 3 courses in many things, depending on your track. So being a history major, of course, I was taking history courses, but then I also had several courses in political science. And, that's halfway why I can analyze or look at political events a certain way. And that's something I've actually used because I've worked in a political field, but also had several courses in biology, several courses in psychology, and the most relevant course I've had to what I do now is sociology. Oh, those were fun. Those were fun, especially one of the teachers. Good God. Anyway, right? So, and just for anybody, because I always know there's somebody who wants to fact check, that St. Joseph's University, class of 1987. If you want to check, use my whole name. It's Romuald, Romuald, Wills. You can call them up. If they give you the information, they can verify that I graduated from there, because I know how some people are. So, anyway, in sociology, I learned really formally the research methods I use now. Formally. That was the basis, formally. And, and also a book, and there's a link to this gentleman in the description box, Dr. Elijah Anderson. He's a black sociologist, and now he calls himself an urban ethnographer. Right? Check him out. But it's basically the same methods that he used in this book that he wrote, A Place on the Corner. It's the same methods I use to observe people, subcultures, and everything. Now, I've said publicly I have a great interest in subcultures. That's the reason. Indeed, sometimes I actually think about just going back to school and getting a PhD in sociology. I actually do sometimes. I might do it once my kids are like adults or can fend for themselves better anyway, right? But that's where I really learned the research methods that I use to come to the conclusions I come to. And there's two primary research methods that I use in sociology and also in business, also in marketing research, and that's qualitative research and quantitative research. Now, a lot of people might focus on quantitative research, right? Those the facts. That's the hard data. Those are the surveys. You primarily come across that with surveys, and then you try to get it as accurate as possible. And I've used surveys several times. Back in the 90s, I worked with this gentleman, and he actually created an extensive survey that he actually advertised in Essence magazine, and probably got thousands of results. So I was working with him on that. And then over the years, I worked with other people on surveys. In fact, there was one video I talked about when I gave a survey out to some women at this vending event, just talking about, asking about, whatchamacallit, the idea of the perfect man or how they would handle it. It was just a simple question. That was a funny thing because they couldn't answer the question, right? But only thing with quantitative research, it provides hard numbers, but it doesn't tell a story, right? And plus, my general position is to take it with a grain of salt. The reason why I've said that, I've actually formally worked with market research companies on 2 occasions. One time it was just a little part-time job where, I'd be one of those people giving surveys in the mall. And y'all probably came across them. Everybody probably has. And, you got to answer some questions and all of that stuff, right? And then, worked more in the background, like actually in the office with this market research company in Baltimore years ago, right? And you can get a lot of great information there, but there's what I consider a great weakness with it. People can game the system. I've actually known several people over the years who would actually, you could call them professional survey takers or whatever, and they would take they would get the information, right? Or they would they'd take that survey or marketing thing or do a focus group to get the little bit of money. People pay for those things. So somebody who knows how to game the system, they might hit up several of these companies just to get something to eat. I knew this dude. He was very bright, very, very highly intelligent, carried a lot of information. But he was kind of on that like couch surfing thing or staying in someone's room. He wasn't doing he was basically in survival mode, but he could probably take a survey on anything and give intelligent answers. And he said, hey, you go to those things, you get some food, you get some money. So sometimes you got to question, and plus, quite frankly, people lie on surveys. And I've seen that happen. I've even seen that in when I was doing the market surveys. You get some people like a leader person, they supposed to get a certain age or something, and they would say, hey, they know they need somebody who's like 25, black or something, right? And I've actually seen a case where somebody qualified somebody, the person was white and was like 32 or something. Because sometimes they don't always verify who they actually talking to. They might take the name and number down or something just to, do some little stuff, but they don't always verify. So I take it with a grain of salt. But that being said, it's still a great method. It's actually a method I use since there's been some videos about the imprint lately. That's actually how I actually confirmed the womb imprint. When I first got the information, I didn't just take it at face value. I said, okay, let me try it out. What I did was both interview and give surveys and also a little bit of coaching with several dozen women back when I first got the information. It took about a year. Well, I didn't have a time limit on it. And these women ranged, it was many black women, of course, but also some white women and a couple Asian women. I think one of them was ambiguously Hispanic. I say ambiguously, one of those Americanized Hispanics, right? And the key to how I did it, though, I gave them the questions, and it was just with some it was like just a direct question, and then with some it was part of some other questions. And I didn't tell them the end result. That's how I was able to trust the results, because then if you tell them the results, you get it. And that's an unfortunate thing some researchers will do. They kind of lead the subject on. No, I just say, I didn't tell them like, oh yeah, I'm just trying to find out this or prove this. I just asked them a simple question, and then followed it up. Well, tell me about the guys you're dealing with now. So it was like, that was actually some formal research. Now, quantitative, that's part of it, but then the research I actually prefer, because like I said, numbers don't tell a story. They just are numbers. They don't tell you what's behind those numbers. What I've done is what is called qualitative research, or otherwise known as field research. And there's several ways of doing that. One is direct observation. You know what to look for. You're paying attention. Now, again, I refer to Dr. Elijah Anderson and, the projects he's working on. That's a part of ethnography. People will do that. I mean, there's several different ways of doing that. Look it up. In fact, I think I'll put a link, Wikipedia link in the comment section about that. Right. But direct observation, one, if a person don't know why you observing them or what you paying attention to, they tend to act more themselves. You get to see them, like if they don't know, like, oh, this person checking me out for a book or something. Because if you tell them like, oh, I'm doing a research project, I just want to pay attention, they very conscious of their behavior. All right. But if you just kind of let them do what they do and then take some notes down later, shoot, you find out a lot more. They tend to be more honest, right? I actually like the direct observation thing better. It's like, what are they actually doing? And then in-depth interviews. Now that's a little bit different, but then you learn how to talk to people. Now later after school and after postgraduate education, I actually worked as an investigator for 10 years. And then at one point, not just I would say in the criminal area, civil rights area, and also there was a point I worked as I've done some investigative journalism. I'll put it like that. But that's another thing. Now, so interviewing, that's another way. And speaking of that, while doing an investigative work, I'll actually receive training from federal agents on how to effectively interview somebody and how to read body language and stuff. So the in-depth interviews over the years, and that's kind of rare. That's kind of rare because a lot of people don't want to sit down and talk to you just to talk. But what I would do is just a variation. I just have them talk, and it's kind of like I combine that with the direct observation. And just, just let them talk and just say, okay, what's up? Because like I said, sometimes if you tell people what you're trying to accomplish, they can tell you what you want to hear, or they hide stuff. That's why I actually prefer the field research, because, yeah, you can get the numbers, you can get that. But sometimes just a researcher, just with the bias they have, or even how they ask the question, can affect the outcome. Now, other ways, like a very good, let me give another one. This kind of has to do with the in-depth interviews, focus groups. Now, I've done maybe over the years, a couple focus groups, because people tend to want to get paid and stuff. Now, when I was working with this market research company, I got to look in on some stuff. Right, but that didn't have anything to do with relationships. Usually, I kind of used times, especially when my book first came out, I was getting a lot of attention from women's study, like book club groups. Like I did a whole lot of book clubs, And, if you talk about relationships, invariably, people start opening up. They get nice and comfortable and everything. Then they start telling everything. It became more like informal groups. And once again, it was like, it's actually better if you don't tell them what your actual purpose is, or what you're trying to learn. You just sitting there. You don't write down anything. You don't say, well, I'm trying to find this out. Now, sometimes with the direct interviews, sometimes, especially women especially share a whole lot. Half the time, they just want somebody to listen to them. So you learned a lot there. And then, like the two ways, and this has to do with just what we're doing growing up. And it actually, a lot of people informally, even if they haven't been formally trained in qualitative research, can do this. And that's participation in group activities, right? Two examples I would use is Lawrence Otis Graham, who wrote Our Kind of People, where he was talking about the African American upper middle class and that world that conspiracy theorist types, so we'll call them the Boule types, but that that upper echelon of black society. Now, I'm not sure what his training was, but he was a participant in that group. He was immersed with that group. See, participation, if you're an outside observer, it means you kind of go native. But then some people are already there. But in this case, participation is like just being a part of it. Like I've mentioned before, there was this subculture. I'm not sure if it still exists in the D.C. area. It might have been all over. I'm not sure. Which involved a group of black men who become sexually and romantically involved with women from the Scandinavian countries, particularly Denmark, especially, right? And when I found that world, I actually was kind of participating. I ain't gonna front, Good God, I ain't gonna front, but I still paid attention to the nuances and everything, right? So that's how a researcher would jump into it, right? And then actual immersion, that gets deep. You're actually gonna live with the group. That's when you really go native. That's like a researcher just embedding in a crack house or something, or going to raves or whatever type of thing, just really getting into it. Like say someone wanted to get involved, like really study the Black Manosphere. They would participate in these in these studies, everything. Well, not studies, but they would participate in like group activities, comment on the videos, and if they really immerse themselves, or immerse in participation, those are kind of interchangeable. But if they truly immerse themselves, they would actually be attending activities and might actually get to the point, even though this has some other issues where they crossing the line and really interfering with the observation, they could actually maybe start doing videos or something. All right? And don't think for a second that's me, but I'm just saying. But if you use other examples, like somebody studying a drug culture, like you get some of these places where you just got a group of people, that's all they do. They might actually live with them. Some people might even go as far as to start using them. But that's those are the research methods. Those are how I'm coming across everything. Because I got that street background, but also got that academic background. But if I come up with a bunch of videos that are constantly academic, they kind of boring. It's like when you in school and people who's had like sat in these lecture halls or something with some boring ass teacher, you just like, damn. But then you get the other teacher who cutting up and stuff. Like I had a politics teacher. that dude would be clowning. Clowning people. That dude has some I remember one politics teacher, he was talking about Che Guevara, man. That shit had me die because he wasn't a fan. This politics particular one was actually conservative, but he was a cool guy. So kind of a mentor in a way. So, but I just wanted to share that. I know this is a long video, but I want to share that because sometimes people get caught up too much in like where the information is coming from, or how the person got the information instead of just looking at the information. And really, people should just take the information. Don't worry about where it came from or the source, but focus on the information itself. And then if they are able to, investigate it themselves. So, just wanted to share that, let y'all know, especially us, any detractors know. It's like, dude, women, whoever, because I've had quite a few sisters who had some problems with what I was saying, try to say, you ain't go to school or something. It's like, shoot. Like I said, Rom Wills, ROMUALD. Call up St. Joseph's University in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and just say you just need to confirm it for a job or something. Of course, if a bunch of people call it, they're going to say, damn, we need to interview Rom, get him in our alumni magazine and stuff, because all these people want to hire him. Anyway, I just wanted to share that. And as always, there's a method to my madness. Anyway, I'll holler at y'all later. Peace.